Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Joel Rosen. I am the Adrenal Fatigue Recovery Ninja, and today I wanted to do the second part of understanding the relationship between, I don't even remember what we called what did we call the first video? Let's see here. I'm sorry, because this is part 2. This is adrenal fatigue, insulin resistance, and hormone imbalance. So I was starting to answer the last question, and then I had to go because I had an appointment. So I was rambling on, and I wanted to continue our thought. And so what I want to do is I want to read the question that one of the members had. So she was saying that she gained weight. She was saying that she's lost her menstrual cycle, and everyone around her thinks that she's depressed. She doesn't want to they tried to put her on antidepressants and hormone therapy, but she didn't want to do that. She went on keto, and that didn't work either. And 3 months later, she's actually put on weight, and there's been no improvements in her cycle, and her motivation and productivity has gone down. And she thought her weight gain was because of her cycle, and it looks like now it's a result of the stress that she's had in her life and overtraining. And so now she wants to know, on top of that, she has ovarian cysts, and the psoriasis has gotten better since going on a high-fat diet, but she's kind of at her wit's end. She doesn't know what to do. So she thinks that overtraining, under-eating, partying late at night, and I'm reading just behind here, has all caught up with her. And then lastly, she doesn't know what's wrong. So what I did was I was going to erase the initial stuff that we talked about, but just make sure you catch part 1. So we were talking about there was partying, under eating, the menstrual cycle being off, depression, not sleeping, putting on weight, doing a keto diet, having stress, wondering if wondering if progesterone is being depleted by cortisol, and really what should I do about it? So that's where we're at, and really what I said was I would really question whether or not what she thinks is strict keto or what you think is strict keto and what you're actually doing are the same things. And that's a really important question because in order for us to be keto, we have to be sure that we're not exceeding our threshold for carbohydrates. We got to make sure we're not exceeding our threshold for protein. And we got to make sure we're eating enough healthy fats. And on top of that, we got to make sure we're healthy enough to do all those things and get into ketosis. Because if we have a lot of inflammation and our mitochondria is not working very well, it's going to be very difficult to get the healthy fats into the mitochondria and use that as a fuel. So let's explain a little bit more about that. And last time we had a nice experience of my headphones causing this to fall, and that was lots of fun. So number 1 is carbs. So I like to think of it in terms of net carbs, and I've talked about this before. So net carbs means how many total carbs are you eating per day, and you minus the fiber. So, for example, if we had a banana, and the banana, fibers, not French, Canadian, although I am from Canada. So let's say the fiber is, the grams of carbs is 30 in a banana, and there is 5 grams of fiber. Then the net would be 25. So that's what we're really trying to understand, because if you don't do it that way and you eat, you count your starches or your veggies or even avocados and stuff, then if your goal is going to be somewhere between 50 to 75 grams per day, it's not going to take long before you exceed that. And a lot of the people that I talk to and say, oh, I tried keto and it didn't work, so it mustn't work for me. I want to know a couple things, like how many grams of carbs, net carbs, or even total carbs were you doing per day? And what was your average? Was it averaged over 3 days? Was it averaged over 7 days? Was it averaged over 2 weeks? And a lot of them look at me, well, I think it was this. There's no I think. you need to know. And so there's a lot of tools these days that you can use. MyFitnessPal is one. It's free. It's a bit of pain in the butt, I'll agree. But, not being able to lose weight, being told that there's nothing wrong with you, being told that you need to go on antidepressants, feeling lousy and depressed. That's worse than having to track your calories, right? Let's agree to that. So the thing is that it can be different for everyone, meaning if you are tracking your calories, that's the first thing you need to do. You need to understand, okay, what are your total calories? What are your total carbs? Were you 60? Were you 90? Were you 120? Were you 50? Where were you? And on those days that you were high and those days that you were low, how did you feel? What was your glucose levels? Did you measure your ketone levels? What were your total carbs? How did you sleep? Did you have inflammation? Were you more stressed out? Those are a lot of questions. And guessing like, well, I tried it and I was strict about it and it didn't work. I only gained weight even though it cleared up my psoriasis, isn't good enough. And not to say you didn't know that, but if I asked you, hey, what were your average calories? And you said, I don't really know, then I know that you didn't know specifically. And then what were your glucose on the days that your average calories were above your average, or the day that you took your diet, your calories were below your grams of fat were below your average. What were your results? Did you take your keto? You look at me like you're, a deer in headlights, then I know you didn't give it a fair shake. You really didn't. You didn't know the information. But as far as the psoriasis clearing up, one of the reasons I think that would have cleared up is because potentially the grains or the carbs that you were getting from your regular diet when you went keto were being eliminated, and those were inflammatory foods, and it cleared up your skin. I would 100% think that that's why that happened. The other thing we tend to see is protein. So protein, we typically say 0.6 to 0.8 per gram of kilograms. So what does that mean? So if I weighed 170, let's say 180, and I divide that by 2.2, that's going to equal my grams or my kilograms in weight. And I think that's about, let's say that's 65. I don't know if it is or not, but so that would be, 66 times 36, 5, so that'd be 39, and then 65 times 0.8, 48 plus, let's say about 60. So I'd want to be somewhere between 39 grams to 60 grams for the day of protein. It's not very much. And if I'm exercising and I work out a lot, I can go a little bit more than that. So my guess is that a lot of people that go keto and are strict keto, maybe their carbs are lower, but maybe their protein's too much because they think of it as a high protein diet. It's not. It's a medium or mild protein diet. And again, you're going to get that in if you're doing, any dairy, if you're doing dairy in this, if you're doing avocados and seeds and nuts, and you're going to get equally over that. So I would want to know, again, don't guess. MyFitnessPal will give you your baseline and know where you are. And then the last thing is not enough fats. So let's say I weighed 160, I'd probably want to be between 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. So if I weighed 160, I'm going to want to be at least, 0.8? I'm going to be at least 140-ish to about 160 grams of fat per day. That's a lot. I mean, you got to go out of your way to get that much fat. And so how do you do it? Well, you could, put a lot of ghee butter on a starch or a protein. You put your MCT oils in your coffee if you're drinking that. We'll talk about that in a second. You can put, ghee butter on your oils on your salad. Put seeds and nuts and avocados and eggs. All of that stuff needs to be high. And again, how many grams of carbs did you eat in a day? And you look at me like you're giving me a ballpark because you're just guessing, then it's not good enough. And then on top of that, if you're not measuring that and then you're not measuring your ketones or your glucose with a meter, or even the very least a dipstick for the ketones, or a breath analyzer, or a blood measurer for your ketones, you're guessing. I mean, you really are guessing. It's hard enough as it is when you have inflammation, you have low-grade infections, you have toxic exposures, you have physical and emotional stressors, and you're depressed. It's hard enough as it is, and you have candida, to get into ketosis when you're guessing with this stuff. So again, as much, Anise, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. If you said you were strict keto and you don't have half of this stuff, even 3/4 of this stuff dialed in, then I would say you weren't strict keto, and maybe you weren't even ready to be strict keto. So those are really important stuff. What were some of the other things too? So that I don't think I had answered. So ovarian cyst. So again, I talked about the first thing that came up in my mind when I read over this is insulin resistance. So why did I think that? I thought insulin resistance because when we look at your Dutch or we look at your hormone profile, we see a lot of PCOS symptoms in women who have aromatization. And what does that mean? It means that your estrogens are converting over into testosterones because of insulin resistance, inflammation, injury. Suffice it to say, they're not going down that pathway. And guess what? You don't have a cycle, so it's probably a good chance that that's happening. And you mentioned your progesterone's low because you're probably not eating enough healthy fats, you're probably not absorbing enough healthy fats, and you're aromatizing your hormones, and they're going down the testosterone pathway, and your cortisol levels are through the roof, or they're demanding to go super high because of all these drainers to your body. And keto is not going to fix that, even if you kind of were in keto, because you still have some major things to have to deal with. Like, say, for example, you're exhausted and you're tired and you're drinking coffee and you're not getting enough ounces of water per day. And I've told people, if you weigh 120 pounds, you should be drinking 60 ounces of water. And you drink, 2 cups or 3 cups of coffee, you can add on 32 ounces of water for every cup, for every 8 ounces of coffee you're drinking. So that's almost 96 ounces of water you got to add on top of the 60 that you were only drinking 40 of. So you're dehydrated, and when you're dehydrated, your adrenals are going to be taxed even further, and that's going to create loss of minerals, and that's going to create problems with regulating blood pressure, and problems with regulating your temperature, and problems with making cellular energy happen because there's no minerals on board. So it becomes like a vicious cycle, and going on hormone replacement and going on antidepressants doesn't, in my opinion, address the main problems that are occurring. So yes, I would agree with you though. Exercising over intensely and not eating enough nutrients to sustain that, late night eating or partying or having fun, probably putting some pressure on the adrenals, probably messing up the circadian rhythm. There's probably some genetic susceptibilities there when we're talking about breaking down hormones or fighting off infections or repairing your cell membranes or making neurotransmitters. All of those things mean you don't repair or regenerate or rebuild or break down those things effectively in the first place, let alone when you're stressed out and deprived of nutrients. So hopefully it makes a lot of sense to you that we are putting a lot of the pieces of the puzzle together. What were the other questions that you had there? Give you suggestions. So, again, getting out of overwhelm. I say, the deeper that I go into genetics and methylation and biochemistry and microbiology and mineral balancing and hormonal regulation and immune system and detoxification, the more you go deeper into that, the more you realize if you don't have your basics on board, if you're in stressful relationships, if you have a job you hate, if you have a marriage you're not enjoying, if you're in a house that's moldy and toxic, if you have emotional stressors and traumas, and even physical stressors and traumas and injuries, you can't out-methylate that, or you can't out-bioidentical hormone that. I mean, you have to deal with those things. You have to deal with the mindset. You have to deal with the vibration and the frequency of the energy that you're processing on a daily basis. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but if you're always thinking, I'm exhausted, I'm burnt out, nothing works for me, everyone thinks I'm crazy, I've had an unfair life, I've had a lot of stressors and traumas that no one else has had to deal with, you're probably right. You probably are very justified in believing that and feeling that. But is that getting you closer to where you want to go? I always harp on that, where a lot of the times you don't even know where you want to go. You don't know what you want to do. If I said I had a magic wand and I can, take away everything and give you the life you deserved, what would that look like? A lot of people are like, well, I don't really know. You need to know, because that's what's going to sustain you, and that's what's going to motivate you, and that's where you're going to calibrate to in order to set the compass to that destination. So it's really, really important to know that. But other things obviously are hydration, drinking healthy water, eating healthy foods, breathing healthy air, being in healthy relationships, having healthy mindsets. Sweating every day, whether it's physical activity. It doesn't have to be going to the gym and running on the treadmill, but it could be doing, even getting outside and getting a little bit of vitamin D and taking off your shoes and putting your feet in the earth and breathing and meditating and counting your blessings and celebrating the life that you do have, because we're so overwhelmed and worked and stressed out that we turn to stimulants and we turn to sugar. And we turn to crappy foods and lack of exercise and bad mindset that doesn't matter if I know biochemistry and if I know MTHFR, or if I know about detoxing phase 1 and phase 2, and the Dutch test is a great test. Doesn't matter about all that stuff, because you haven't even done step A or step B or step C. So those are some of the things. Nutrients, one of the greatest nutrients that I think that's out there is our alpha-lipoic acid. That's one of those nutrients that can really calm down a lot of free radicals. Peroxynitrate can help squash a lot of those free radicals and reoxidize or reduce, if you will, or regenerate vitamin E, vitamin C, glutathione, and really help out. The other thing I really, really like are the bioflavonoids, the flower pollens, the multipollens, and the propolis. And so I think I have them here. Actually, this is where they are. I have this propolis immune, and I really, really think that that's a great supplement, along with ultra pollen. And these are going to calm down the neurotoxicity or the excitotoxins. And then I use this R-lipoic acid. And actually, if you want to know how to get some of these things, I can put some links in this video. It really wasn't my goal to do that, but people always ask me, get to the facts. And stop, stop, holding back the goods and not giving us, all the information. And, I do give you all the information. And then when I do give you all the information, I get people saying, oh, you're just promoting yourself and blah, blah, blah. So you can't please everyone all the time. The other thing that I really like is this B Max ND. And what it is it's a fermented natural source of bee. And you got to be really careful with your bees, because bees are, a lot of the times, they're synthetic. And if you kind of look in the origin of how they're made through coal tar derivatives. And that's just disgusting, if you ask me. But not only that, I always joke around, like, I don't make iced tea anymore, but if I had iced tea and I put it in like a little liter of water, and even that clumps with that little bit, imagine how, if I was a supplement company and I was making vats and vats and gallons of this stuff, I would need what's called flow-through agents. So these are toxic tag-alongs, excipients is what they're called, or flow-through agents, and they use things like talc talcum powder, like chalk, or they use magnesium stearate or stearic acid. All of these things are going to be good in the beginning. I had a consult with someone who said, yeah, I was doing some really good nutrients through some of those multi-level marketing companies, and I felt good in the beginning, but I didn't feel good afterwards. And I think what happens is they had junked up with so many, crappy stuff in there that it's actually worse if you didn't take anything than if you didn't take anything at all, because these synthetics, coal tar derivatives, talc, toxic tag-alongs, pass-through agents are really creating debilitating problems in your body for the reasons that you should be taking them. It's making you even worse. So it's almost like you have to be neurotic. I mean, I go into the grocery store and I look at the health food section, and that's like the least health food section, because there's so many crappy ingredients in there, and it's all for the corporate dollar. It's all for, let's not put good supplements, good products in here. Let's save money. We don't get regulated by the FDA. We make more money if our products cost cheaper to produce and we cost more to sell, and we can feed our children and our grandchildren, but we don't have to give you the greatest quality stuff. So I see that happen a lot, and it's really a shame. But I think those are some things to start with, and I hope that's helpful. So I think it looks like I have a couple questions. I can answer that. Michelle, hi Michelle. We have Deborah. Deborah, are those supplements okay to take with autoimmunity? Yes, they're okay to take with autoimmunity. They're probably especially good to take with autoimmunity, because with autoimmunity, you sort of have that 1-2 punch of your immune system going awry with the neurotoxicity, following thereafter, and then the neurotoxicity stimulating the immune system to go awry, and then the immune system to go awry, stimulating the neurotoxicity, and it's this vicious snowball that continues to happen. And at the end of the day, what happens is your cell energy goes down, your antioxidant status goes down, your lipid peroxidation goes up, your cell membrane breakdown goes down, your absorption levels goes down, your sodium and your electrolyte levels go down, and you're taking, Synthroid and bioidenticals, and they're not fixing the problem. I mean, so yes, they are okay. I have B vitamin. I have that B vitamins. I have that B vitamin. What's a good dose? Okay, I'm sorry, Michelle. You have that B vitamin. What's a good dose? It's a good question. I mean, I usually use a teaspoon to a tablespoon, and I may use that once or twice a day, depending on my status, depending if I'm exhausted, if I'm tired. One of the things I try to teach guys, or you ladies, or guys and gals, is the bell-shaped curve. So let's talk about the bell-shaped curve. So the bell-shaped curve is such that when you try a dose of a supplement, and whoever gave it to you, or on the instructions it says, do 1 per day, or do 2-3 times a day, or whatever it is, that's arbitrary. And so you sort of have this bell-shaped curve of, in here is the zone of where you need to be. Down here is too little, and down over here is too much. So I can't really tell you how much you should be taking, but I can tell you in terms of, let's use it as a methylfolate issue. If you have homozygous MTHFR and you're not making any methylfolate, and you're not eating a lot of leafy green vegetables, and you're very stressed, you're probably like way over here, not too little here, but you're way down here. So all of a sudden you start taking more and more, then all of a sudden you feel really good. Then what happens is we start taking more and more, and they didn't work the way they used to. And 3 years later, my supplements aren't working. So what I tell patients is, when you start taking that supplement and you start to feel good, back off and don't take anything the next day. I know it's really hard to resist, but you want to try to back off and not take anything that day, because you're in the zone. You're in that bell-shaped curve. And if you don't take it that day, and then you feel good, and then the next day you don't feel quite as good, but you still feel pretty good, and then the next day you still feel good, but then the day after you feel terrible. Those were all from stopping. Like day 1 you felt okay, day 2 you felt good, day 3 you felt good, but day 4 you kind of slipped. Maybe take another dose and see if day 5 you felt, okay, I felt a little bit better. Then day 6 you stop and you feel worse again, then take it again. And maybe day 7 you feel good, day 8 you felt good, day 9 you felt good, day 10 you felt bad again. I mean, that's called pulsing. That's how supplements are meant to be taken. Where does your life fit in? Well, let's say I'm going on vacation and I don't have as much stress and I don't have as much demand, and I'm sort of, we always say we feel better when we go on vacation. Well, guess what? The doses that you were taking, it may be too much and you may be over here now. And so you stop taking it, you feel good, you stop taking it, you stop taking it, stop taking it, stop taking it. You come back from vacation, you stop taking it, you feel crappy again. So you kind of have to understand that bell-shaped curve of where you feel good, resist the temptation of not taking any supplements on that day or supplement on that day. And it's really hard because you got 23 different things. You don't know which one you should be pulsing or not. So hopefully that makes sense for you. But anyways, that was, if there's any other questions, you can let me know. You're welcome, Michelle. If there's any other questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday. I probably won't do another Facebook Live until next Tuesday, which is going to be on Boxing Day, as they call it in Canada. And that's it. That's all. That's all I got for you today. Hopefully that was helpful for you. And I didn't really, just pick out this question because Anise was, cute, or I'm playing favors. But it's a very common question in terms of a lot of women are dealing with this. And I felt that it would be a really good learning lesson to be able to answer that question. So hopefully, some of you won't get mad at me and say, oh, you never answered my question or did a video. It's really funny. It's really amazing. I'll just tell you a quick story. My daughter plays soccer, and the coach is a really nice guy. And so anyways, what happened was my daughter's on this competitive team, and they have a lot of players, and she didn't get picked to go on the travel soccer tournament, and he didn't tell her. And he was waiting for me to tell her. And so it was about a week before they were supposed to travel. And she texted me from the field, like, should I ask Coach Mark if I'm going? And I was like, oh my goodness. I said, no, shouldn't ask Coach Mark. And so she came to the car and she was really upset. She was crying. And she's like, I don't get it. I try so hard and it's not fair, and I'm not going. And I felt really bad for her, and I was really mad at Coach Mark for not telling her. So I called him and I texted him and said, hey, listen, it's your responsibility to tell him, to tell her, that she's not going. And he said to me, he said, you know what, you're right. It is my responsibility to tell her. And I appreciate you telling me this. And so I thought that was really big of him, because it's amazing. Like, I told him, hey, listen, I'm in the same field of you in terms of critiques. I try to help a lot of people, and a lot of the times we only hear bad news about what we're not doing. And a lot of people don't go out of their way to tell you good news. And I did the same. I said to I really appreciate you, Coach Mark, for, saying it was you that you need to tell her. And I also just wanted to thank you so much. I know, like, these guys don't get paid that much money. It's like very little for the year. And they're there 4 nights a week, plus travel, plus, they got they do it for the love of the game. And they do it because they enjoy it and giving back. And, it's nice to also give good thought, the good things too. Not just for him, but for me. I mean, it makes me feel good to appreciate, what hard work someone's doing and to let them know. And so I'm not saying this to say, hey, you guys got to, butter me up and tell me what good work I'm doing. But it's just kind of human nature to always tell people what's wrong versus what's right. And I think that's a problem in terms of we're always looking, our antenna is always up to see like what's not working and what we're not doing and what we're dealing with in terms of the negative. And that's where we have the option, like I said earlier, to either, think and put your vibration and frequency and energy in the area of what's getting you closer, and notice good things and notice positive things, and go out of your way to make recognition, whether it's to yourself, especially to yourself. How many of you guys are recognizing all the hard, kick-ass work that you're doing? My guess is not a lot of you. And I talk to you guys, and I know like how hard, it's almost giving me goosebumps on how hard you guys work, on how you show up, and how no one understands what you're going through, and how you've been suffering, and you're 20 years later, you're still showing up. You're still trying to get your life back. And that's kick-ass. Like, recognize that. Look in the mirror and say, you kick ass. You still have a lot of things to accomplish. And you are better than where you were. And you aren't dumb. And you are smart. And you are beautiful. I mean, I know it's kind of hokey pokey, but it's not. And because you need to have that energy first in the right alignment before the energy in the body becomes in the right alignment. So anyways, that's my little positive mental attitude for the day. Hopefully you guys have a wonderful weekend, an awesome holiday season. My goal is to really make your 2018 an awesome year, get you guys back to the life that you deserve, that I feel is your God-given right. And I appreciate every one of you, and I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. Thank you so much.